We'll begin. Welcome, everyone. This is Lisa Edinburgh, Chair of the Westborough School Committee. Today is Wednesday, January 18th, 2023. This meeting of the Westborough School Committee is called to order. Please stand if you are able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for joining us this evening. I'd like to notify everyone in the room with us tonight that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed by Westborough TV. School committee meetings are available for remote viewing or listening on Westborough TV's government channels, Verizon 28 and Charter 192, and online on the Westborough TV YouTube channel. Thank you to Westborough TV for covering the broadcast this evening. We have with us tonight Superintendent Amber Bach, Assistant Superintendent Dr. Daniel Mayer, Director of Finance and Administration David Gordon, Vice Chair of the Westborough School Committee Steve Durrett, School Committee members Kristen Vincent, Raghu Nandan, Stephen Batchelor, our student representative, Aritrika Ghosh, Recording Secretary Jen Benton. We have staff from Westborough TV here, and I'd like to personally welcome everyone sitting in front of us and those watching from home. So our agenda for this evening is as follows. We'll begin with an approval of minutes from the January 4th, 2023 regular session meeting, then hear from Amber Bach with the superintendent's report, followed by the assistant superintendent's report. Then we'll hear the Director of Finance and Administration's report, continuing the meeting with the school committee member reports. We'll follow that with the building project updates, and then we'll potentially hear from some citizens during citizens' requests. And then we'll have a special guest, Erin Laprade, and possibly Dr. Sherry Stevens present and have us receive the annual Borough FY24 report, followed by a review of the preliminary 2023-24 school year calendar. We'll continue with our school committee policies review. Soon thereafter, we'll vote to accept an anonymous borough donation. And finally, we'll end our regular session meeting with a vote of the final bid for the long-range capital improvement plan. Then we'll move into an executive session meeting and conclude with an adjournment for this evening. So let's begin with an approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from January 4th, 2023 regular session?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have 4-0 with 1 abstention, 5 being present. And we'll continue on our agenda with the superintendent's report. Amber, take it away.
Good to see all of you. That was a great introduction, Lisa. I feel like my report should be so much more vibrant. I actually wanted to just do a couple of financial touches this week. If I think about significant pieces since we last met, I was able to attend. Dave and I went to FinCom and had a really nice kind of first Q discussion with them around the budget following the last time that we had discussed it when it was approved, and I think that went really well. We both felt like the questions were good. They felt the budget book was clear. They didn't have extensive questions. I think we really just start digesting the layers of the budget and see where they have some areas of questions. I don't think they had any really particularly areas that they were calling out that were of large concern, but it was just a good first pass for us to warm up on areas where people might want more conversation with us. Yep. So that was purposeful and on track, and we are starting now to prepare for 2 important pieces: the Town Finance Summit, which will be next week on, just make sure I'm clear with my notes here. It is on the 26th. It goes from like 9 until 3 in the afternoon. It is open to the public. It'll be here in this meeting space. It's broadcast by Westborough TV. So I encourage people who want to get really in depth on the budget at this stage to tune in or come and listen. And then from there, we had discussed the range of types of community visits that we might want to make. And so I've started moving on getting those booked. I've got an opportunity where I'll visit the Civic Club. I think I'll visit the Rotary, Women's Club. Opportunities to really update people on life in the schools since our return from COVID and really back into kind of those community connections. And then we'll also have a meeting at the Senior Center. So that feels really good. Those are all booked. I'll share those dates with you. You're always welcome to join me. And then Dave and I will balance doing a couple of those together, and then I'll do some of them independently. So it should be a nice balance. And I think other than that, I feel like the schools are humming, and attendance has been more even post-holiday, and I think that feels good, as well as staff absences. Again, when staff's children are sick, then they're at home often doing care just as parents are. So the absence impact prior to vacation on both the student and the teacher side was really kind of like breaking into the regular rhythm of our day. I think that principals are reporting it feels really stable, the energy's good, and people are really in a positive space. So it's exactly where you want to be this time of year. We're doing a lot of access testing for our students who are language learners, getting a look at their progress. So it's just kind of really the work of the district, and it feels like it's moving along at a really nice pace. So that's my report tonight, and I know Daniel has some highlights that he'll share from the MLK event, which I think was really amazing to attend on Monday.
Thank you very much. Daniel, what do you have for us this evening?
Amber's right. I have highlights from the MLK event, which was wonderful. It was our 5th year doing this event, and it was very celebratory. We had, as you know, we moved it to the evening. We had Ron Jones was our keynote speaker. He had a fabulous talk he gave about the importance of everybody being able to listen and hear one another, and that MLK's legacy was not just focused on the African American community, but all people coming together to work for a better world. And he did it very powerfully and compellingly. And after about an hour and 15 minutes of his speech, we turned it over to the music, and the music group that came, Ball in the House a cappella group, was terrific. They joined with our a cappella program to do one number, which was Elegy to Martin Luther King, and it was beautifully done. And then they just started rocking and rolling and getting people clapping and dancing. And we had a wonderful turnout, like about 215 people, which for that event is remarkable. And also about 100 people were online watching it too. So we were pleased with the whole thing.
Fantastic. Okay, so we'll move along. Dave, do you have anything to report?
No reports tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll move on to the agenda item of the school committee member reports, and we'll begin with our student liaison, Aratrika Ghosh.
So I have a report from Hastings to start off. The theme for the month of January for the students is teamwork, which they will be doing through connecting their learning through a powerful story walk that Westborough Connects has set up for them around the Hastings campus. In Fails, they really enjoyed their kind of like grand opening for their new campus, and next week they'll be collecting snacks for the food pantry, as well as having their school meeting on Friday. In the high school, I will say that midterms are coming up next week, and the Westborough Public Library is hosting study sessions where there'll be like snacks and computers set up for everyone to go and cram. They'll be hosting that on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th from 3 to 10 p.m. Along with that, the school is also doing the biliteracy exams as the midterms for the foreign language department. And in our school, because there's so many people that are biliteral, not only in the language that they've chosen to learn at the school, but also one that they have from the home, we've got several people taking multiple exams, perhaps even getting multiple biliteracy seals. So that's been really cool to see.
Okay, so we'll move right along. Steve?
I have nothing to report tonight.
Kristen?
I was just going to say thank you to everyone who organized the MLK celebration Monday evening. Thank you to all the sponsors. And it was just a really great way to come together and celebrate. So thank you.
And that was just to make sure we Westborough connects, and then they brought together the co-sponsors of Interfaith Group and Westborough Public Schools as anchor presenters or sponsors of that event, and it was really, really fun. They also have a follow-up, we should mention, in 2 weeks on the 28th, and there will be communications coming out about that, where it's kind of like, how do you continue the conversation? How do you continue commitment to legacy? And so around justice, equity, and love for all. And so there's going to be a session where it's called, what are they calling it, Daniel? It's a silent, it's mapping.
Story mapping.
Journey.
Journey mapping,
mapping.
sorry, yes. And you get to come together, and it's actually a lot of it is silently writing about your own journey. So if you're an introvert, you do not have to be expressing in a collective way about your journey, but they walk you through an exercise of your journey, and at some point there is some sharing that'll happen, but it'll be a very powerful event.
And then they're also from there, and that's open to the whole community, and it should bring people together to continue the journey of the work of really a strong, loving community. And then beyond that, the story map that Artrika just shared is wider than the Hastings community. It's for the whole community. You can go over and take an outdoor walk and read the story progression, the storyboards. It had been up at Fales. It's been at the high school, because the school as a community for all is a good space for them to set it up. And so the current one's over at Hastings. And I don't remember, Artrika, did they tell you what the book was for the Journey Walk?
No, I didn't get that.
Yeah, so there is, it's an author who then posts the story, and you can walk along, enjoy both the walk and the reading. So I think the committee did an amazing job to really bring something good together.
Okay. Raghu?
I don't have anything to report tonight.
Okay, and Steve will wait for the building report?
Yes.
Okay. And from me, there's great news and not so great news about our bus transportation. We love our drivers, of course, but due to the bus driver shortage, since the very first day of school, there have been 2 routes that have been combined with 2 other buses, and those routes have been running seamlessly since September. And with the return of a couple of drivers from different types of leaves, we have a full driving fleet minus those two I mentioned. Now that sounds like great news, and it is, yet unfortunately we have no substitute drivers. And therefore, when any driver is sick and calls out, it means a doubling of routes and some delays. This is terribly unfortunate and inconvenient, but I wanted to just commiserate with those students and families affected by a couple of our transportation issues, and to let you know that NRT continues to recruit drivers. If there's anyone out there listening who'd like to drive a bus for Westborough, you can contact NRT about training and applying for a job. We welcome you. And a reminder to my own school committee members that we won't see each other until after January 6th, the budget summit meeting, but we are all welcome at, and I believe that it's 1:30 that schools are on the agenda for the budget summit, which is really when Select Board, Advisory Finance Committee, and School Committee, and all the departments come together to review the budget throughout the day.
We should double check, because I think one year we did it one way and another year we did another way. One year we did it, we were there all day. We were all there and we were listening to all the presentations and participating and asking questions. And then one of the other years we came in during a portion of it. So I guess we should just clarify with our boards, and maybe Lisa, you could send an email to the team and just let people have, if you can't make it all day or if you can't be there, but that if the expectation is all the boards are there, I wouldn't want us to be absent if all the boards are there, and the idea is that the summit is an opportunity for all of us to hear each other's budgets and to kind of surface more questions. So our presentation will be ready to go, and we'll share that with you before, but maybe you could just kind of check in.
Okay, I'll send you all a text.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think our scheduled time is 2 o'clock or 2:30 in the
Right.
afternoon.
Okay.
You know, for those of us who work, that schedule is terrible. And so I'm going to beg off, except I'll try to either be online or be there at the scheduled time.
And that's the other part. It's live streamed. You can watch it on YouTube, Westborough TV channel. I'm sure we'll be broadcasting. So that's another way. Okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. So we're going to move on to the building project update. Steve, what do you got for us?
Well, the good news is, and I think most of us were there at the ribbon cutting for Fails on January the 8th. It was a fairly large turnout, much larger than I thought we'd get. It turned out to be one of the better days of the month, and which was great. The comments that I heard around the building were very positive in terms of what the school's purpose and much different than I think many of people my age or perhaps younger had experienced in their own schools. So, you know, that's, I guess, rewarding to all of us who worked on the project since 2015, and there were 8 of us, including a number of school department employees, Amber, Marianne Stennard, myself, Chris Javendra from National Grid, Bob Ferguson from the school department, Shelby Marshall from the Board of Selectmen,
Andrew. Bradley from
Bradley
FinCom.
from the Finance Committee. I think that's all of us. Anyway, there are 8 of us, and most everybody attended every meeting. And for that period of time, from 2015 to now, in the early part of the project, we met at least twice a month, and sometimes more often as part of the project needed it. More recently, it's been once a month, but sometimes more trying than the earlier part. Anyway, at this point of the project, the only thing that remains to be completed is the geothermal project while they adjust the glycol level in the system. It's at 18%. We need to get to 20 before they'll begin using the geothermal system to heat the building. In the meantime, it's being heated with propane, which is at the expense of the contractor. So the town is not paying that bill. And I guess at this point, the committee continues because we need now to finish the accounting for the project so that we can get the remaining 5% of the state's loan paid to the town on behalf of the project, which means everything, all the I's have to be dotted, all the accounts have to be closed, all the players have to agree, and we all stand up with a smile on our face and ask for money from the state, which will probably take between 6 and 8 months. So it's a problem time, I guess, because there's only one thing that can be done, and that's it has to be right. And as we have experienced on other projects that have gone this similar route, particularly Gibbons, it takes a long time to satisfy the state at that level. So with that, I guess our meetings are more than likely going to be executive sessions because there's a fair amount of negotiations involved to be able to close the book so that everybody's happy on the other end, which means a fair amount of negotiations to get us from the point where we are to the point where we have to be in order to get the remaining money from the state. So don't be surprised if we continue to meet, but as I said, most of those meetings will be in executive session. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Steve, for the work you've done and continue to do on that tremendous project. It was really quite a celebration to walk through and see so many people as excited as we are. So that was fantastic. So we'll move right along to citizens' requests. Is there anyone here tonight that wishes to make a statement to the school committee? So I will read the policy. As a reminder, we have a policy regarding citizens' requests. Some important pieces of this policy include that you must be a current resident of Westborough. Speakers are allowed to address the school committee about issues within the school committee's purview. Some examples: the Westborough School District policy or budget. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak to the school committee. Written comments longer than 3 minutes may be presented to the presiding chair before and after the meeting. You are welcome to hand me additional comments in writing now or send them via email, and I will share them with the other school committee members. Public comment by residents at this meeting is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between individuals and the school committee. It is an individual's opportunity to express an opinion on issues within the school committee's authority. Our role is to listen carefully to what you have to share with us tonight. Clapping, cheering, calling out, or any other noise following a speaker is not allowed. A reminder that if not following the policy, this may cut into your time. Additionally, I want to remind members of the school committee that when making a point of order, please address your concern to the chair initially rather than to the speaker. Please state your name and street address and speak into the microphone.
Boyd Conklin, 8 Water Street. So I was also at the Martin Luther King, Ron Johnson presentation. I think I saw Stephen there and Kristen and Daniel and Amber. And so the guy got into the speech, and then at the end of it, he relayed a story of a Trump supporter he talked to and used the F word from the Trump supporter's mouth in the meeting, as in the Trump supporter that he'd talked to at a bar was saying F Joe Biden. And then he asked the Trump supporter if he had any reason to vote for Trump. And he told the crowd that this person had nothing to say about why Trump was a good president or is a good president. And so if there's anyone that would like to ask me why Trump is a good president, I'd be sure to have the conversation underneath Ron Johnson's terms. Anyways, I thought it was a poor slam at the Martin Luther King presentation on Trump supporters. As far as the tax assessor has let me know that the buildings of the school will be updated. And so with these updated numbers, once again, you can take a third of the building's value and you can spend that over a 3-year period. And so I'm also told that the Hastings roof has fallen off from that 3-year period, so it should no longer come into effect if the HVAC project that is supposed to be going on at Hastings, it should, using their numbers, and it might change it so that the MAAB/ADA, Massachusetts Architectural Access Board, American Disabilities Act, it wouldn't perhaps trigger the necessity to turn that into a $20 million project. Much like some of the things on the library rehab, a lot of this, the windows and the roofs, can be done without making it into a $20 million plan. And also the business of taking the opportunity to get in all the zero carbon and all electricity and all this kind of business for retrofit on these things, where the school committee and apparently the select board and Sustainable Westborough want to go zero carbon and only one energy source. As we see right now with fails.
I'm so sorry. Your 3 minutes are up, and
Thanks.
Thank you for being here. Okay, we're going to move right along to our next agenda item, which is annually, Erin Laprade and Dr. Sherry Stevens come to provide us with an update about the Borough program. So this is our annual Borough FY22 report. Welcome, Erin.
Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and provide this brief update on the progress of the Borough program and the Sugar Shack. 2022 was another prolific year for us as we continue to demonstrate growth in many key areas. The Sugar Shack continues to thrive and our brand recognition continues to expand, even as we ride out some effects of both inflation and COVID on customer buying habits. All signs are positive, and as our business grows, so does our ability to provide meaningful opportunities for our students, with new tasks and skills being introduced daily. As a program, the Borough is a complex, fast-moving environment. Our teacher, Angelina McCarthy, and our paraeducator staff serve 10 students across a range of activities and locations on-site and in the community, supported by a rotation of specialists, OT, speech, behavior, under the oversight of our Student Services Coordinator, Karen Bunton. We remain in purposeful forward motion thanks to our proactive energy, constant communication, and a constructive feedback loop that challenges us to always be better for the benefit of our students. Our team is guided by the principle of continuous improvement, and this past year saw us refining our ability to identify and eliminate inefficiencies and roadblocks, the success of newly implemented processes and procedures, and the strengthening of team collaboration and communication. One success of note this past year was the implementation of a formal data-based vocational phase system that has proven to be a more effective way to assess our students' skill progress to better determine their readiness to move beyond the foundational skills practiced in the Sugar Shack, phase 1, to more targeted advanced skills at internships in the community, phase 2. Using the Massachusetts Work-Based Learning Plan as a comprehensive evaluation tool, we're now better able to tailor instruction for our students' individual needs and IEP goals, with the ultimate objective of guiding students to phase 3, which is an individual placement at a job site of their choosing and paid employment when their education is complete. We celebrated our first vocational phase success story in 2022 as one of our students with a passion for carpentry was hired into a paid part-time position at Lowe's. And we look forward to more of these stories to come this year and beyond as more students pass through our phases. Another notable success in 2022 was the start of fresh fudge production in the Sugar Shack. Our store manager, Kristen Dadawal, and I had this endeavor on our wish list for quite some time. So many customers would come in looking for fudge, and the production process from start to finish generates a ton of new skills for our students to learn. Fudge is the first of our products to be fully made on site by our students. It's incredibly fun and rewarding for them, and it's a big milestone for the program. The students love to show customers and our online followers the flavors of fudge that they made and talk about the other work they've been doing in the store. And I think anyone who follows us on social media can attest to that. There's a lot of great videos on there. If you haven't followed us, at Borough Sugar Shack on Instagram. Since introducing fudge to the store at the beginning of this school year, it has been a definite draw. Our sales have had a boost, and we intend to run with it. As you can see in the tables included in your packet, total sales increased again in calendar year 2022 to the sum of $111,909, and we're trending ahead for the fiscal year to date as well. I think it's also important to note that the average order value continues to increase year to year as well, indicating that customers are finding our offerings appealing and are therefore spending more each time they shop. We also know that many customers buy from us specifically to support our program, and these customers are typically very generous in their spending. You'll note that our expenditures were up this past year, resulting in a reduction of net profit despite the rise in total sales. This increase can be attributed to 3 significant factors. Vendor costs have increased across the board, mainly due to the increased cost of fuel, staffing challenges, and difficulty in sourcing ingredients, and our vendors have passed those costs on to us. Secondly, industry trends show that many consumers who had been frequenting small businesses in an effort to avoid crowds during the earlier days of COVID have since returned to the big box stores where they can conveniently purchase candy along with their other groceries. And lastly, we've outgrown the capabilities of our current point of sale system, which has limitations to portability for selling at farmers market and other pop-ups, and also has limited functionality for an online store. Therefore, we recently purchased an upgrade to the system, which is currently being implemented, in which will modernize our inventory operations, give us more of an ability to take the Sugar Shack out into the community, and enable us to establish a more lucrative e-commerce sales channel. This was a significant but necessary equipment expense, which is reflected in these numbers as a one-time cost. I am confident that we will see our net profit increase again going forward. We're doing all the right things to make that happen. We're always looking to rationalize our product selections by examining SKU sales to determine what sells and what doesn't. And we regularly conduct cost savings analyses to root out waste in our purchasing and overall operations. For example, an increase in the variety of products that we offer is a good thing, but it means that we're now using more of a variety of labels and packaging materials as compared to prior periods. As a best practice, we continue to explore options for diversifying vendors or otherwise reducing our cost of goods sold. We're also always strategizing how to introduce new revenue streams, such as the fudge, or how to re-energize existing ones. Our corporate business is increasing, and more customers than ever are coming in and saying, I heard about you, or I saw this or that on social media and just had to come here. We've created a sought-after shopping experience by not only offering unique quality items, but by always starting with why in everything we do. In other words, putting our mission at the forefront of our work and marketing to customers the fact that it's our students that make the Sugar Shack so sweet. We have some additional highlights to report as we pursue our goal for the borough program to be ultimately self-sustaining. We've been contacted by numerous other school districts looking for information and guidance on how we did it. Though we have always known that we're a unique, innovative program, it's become very clear over the course of the past year that others know it too, and they seek to imitate us. While it's strategically exciting to collaborate with other districts, these conversations can be time-consuming, and we, of course, want to ensure that we're protective of what we've built. To that end, we've begun drafting a formal consulting agreement that would allow us to better structure these interactions and potentially create a new revenue stream for the program. The upcoming year will also see the continuation of plans to renovate the lower level of our building into usable space for additional borough program, Sugar Shack storage, and district or community use. The need for this expansion is a testament to the growth of the program overall, and we look forward to the exciting opportunities that having this usable space will bring us in the future. We also continue efforts to tuition in a student or two from other towns as another means of deferring program costs. As we begin the year 2023, the borough program is undoubtedly in a strong position. It is high quality, stable, marketable, and highly sustainable. In closing, I just would like to recognize the borough team, including senior district leadership, for their tremendous work and dedication to our students. Our staff and our students make the borough such a positive, fun environment and fun workplace, and I consider myself really fortunate to be able to be here representing them tonight. I would also like to thank all the wonderful people in the Westborough community, including you all, who continue to support us in so many ways, whether financially, by word-of-mouth advertising, or just by sending us general goodwill and wishes of success. We are truly thankful for the support. And if you're watching, you haven't been in a while to see us, come in, visit our students, try some fudge, and see what we have going on at the Sugar Shack and at the borough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Committee. Steve Durrett?
Just a comment. This has been one of the best programs I think that the school committee had interest in, and that you all are bringing it to fruition, not only for the benefit of the students, which is primarily why we created it, but also for the opportunity for students as they age out of the program to actually have an opportunity to go to work, and for their capabilities to have a successful life going forward. I have to say, your report was quite fabulous, number one. It has lived up to everything that we had hoped for on this side of the bench, and the economics of it are also proving out. I think it's really great, and I want to thank you both and everybody else in the program who has worked to make it successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, please. Oh, Eritrika, absolutely.
I just had a question. So how many students do you expect to, or would you know how many students you expect to receive after this school year into the borough program?
Current numbers, and Sherry, perhaps you can help me with this. I think our numbers aren't expected to change too drastically next year. Going forward as the years go on, it will fluctuate a bit depending on who comes to us from the high school and which students accept their diplomas and move on. So I don't know if you have anything to add, Sherry.
Thank you. Steve.
I want to echo Mr. Durrett's comments and thank you for the report and the program. It's such a great space that you've created there, both for the students and what it reflects back to the community as the kind of community that we want to be. And so, it's been wonderful seeing the success that the program's had, and the numbers reflect that. It's becoming a stronger presence in town, and so, that owes to the hard work that Sherry and Aaron that you're doing. And so I just want to thank you for all the work that you've done, making this be a model program that other communities can look to. And as you mentioned, they can even tuition in and create revenue streams. So it's just a wonderful opportunity for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. We're blessed to have a great team. So much of it is the teamwork. So I feel myself lucky every day.
One more comment?
Yeah, Steve.
I mean, one of the things that we had to surmount in order to have the program be what it is to have the legislature change the rules relative to a school system. If you're a technical high school, you can have a business. If you're a normal school system, you could not. And thankful to our reps and senator to be able to change the law so that, in fact, school systems like ours could have a program like this. And, of course, it benefits not only the town, but more importantly, the students who are there. So I want to thank them as well.
Yes, it was 2017. Dr. Sherry Stevens, Amber Bach, and I were sitting in front of the legislators, literally creating precedents. It was a bill that went through, and it has now created precedents for the public schools to start a business. And it is exciting to think of a revenue stream simply as the consulting agent. I mean, the revenue streams that you mentioned in the report are very exciting. So it is, what a blessing it's going to feel even to see it elsewhere and recognize that it all started here. I want to please send back our thanks to your team. We are so grateful. For those watching who have no idea what we're talking about, we're talking about the Borough program. It stands for Bridge Over Right Opportunities. This program, I'm going to remind our viewers, is specifically designed educationally and vocationally for 18 to 22-year-old students in our school district. And the success of the store, the Sugar Shack, located at 15 East Main Street, right near the Rotary, and the program is a shining example of academic and entrepreneurial excellence. And it comes from your staff, your students, and the leadership in Westborough. And we are so, so grateful. It's been incredible to watch it grow from the beginning to just a thought in the minds of, I believe, was it just Amber and Cherry originally? And there was someone else. I know that was brainstorming back then. But it's incredible to watch where it has come, and thank you so much for pushing it forward. And it's just growing in a very strategic business way that, it's incredible. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
We love data. Data is inspiring, and so it feels really good to be able to be in a place where we've been able to anchor profitability and stabilize what we think kind of is an annual capacity of the store, and it starts to open up the next tier of opportunities. I think the most gratifying piece for me is to see the robust, real work that our students do. And I think so many programs struggle to create authentic work experiences, and that's what I love about the program. The Sugar Shack's legitimate town business. We give back to this community, and we have more to do and more exciting things ahead that we believe, feed into Westborough's community model and the downtown vision for a robust, exciting downtown place to visit. And so it's really, really exciting. I do think right now seeing us plow the profitability back into growing the side of the store, that we have a contained, continuous financial loop there is exciting, and it kind of stabilizes what we do. And I do think it's important to continue to note to people that we created the program using school budget funds, the actual space, so we could program students, and we hired staff. but everything that drives the store, every product piece we purchased came from the original seed money of $13,000 in a GoFundMe and some donations. And that seed money has fed this loop of purchase. So all of the product and the packaging and the things that run the store side are sustained off of that original donation. And so for people that listen, your money matters, your donations matter, your support of innovation matters. And I doubt anybody that gave to that original seed money really understood what it would do for us. And it's pretty impressive to think that, you know, we were able to gross like $111,000 from that seed money, and that it sustains the product viability. It's very exciting. So more exciting things ahead. I just want to give a shout out to these guys, pretty amazing team. And the level of quality instructional programming on the school side is really spectacular. So it's exciting. And you get free candy for it tonight. Sponsored by us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
And we always put you in early so you can go home, so that you don't have to.
Exactly.
It'll be an annual report for you. I think understanding the financial trajectory of that program and seeing it over time and building it into record is an important part of what school committee provides. So that 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, people say, when did it happen? What happened? The record of the annual report that comes through Sherry's report and these reports creates a continuity of history for the program. I think that's important. And so we'll start to provide that financial structure as an embedded part. And you could go back to these reports and see the growth of the program year over year. So, you know, there's a purpose in this work that I think lives beyond you that's important to recognize that these reports become a permanent record to the trajectory of the district. So thank you very much, you guys, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we'll move right along onto agenda item of reviewing the preliminary 2023-24 school year calendar. Daniel's going to walk us through it. This is our first viewing of the school calendar for the following year. I'm so excited that it's January.
Aratrika is like,
Just a little bit
I don't
shocked.
care.
Like my
Yes.
mind.
She's sitting there and she doesn't care.
You know, people ask us in February, where's the calendar? And this is, I think, the earliest we usually do it at the end of January, early February, but
2024 like
18th.
did not exist in my mind. Like, it's just registering now. Like in my whole life, I've been told 2023. So I was like,
2024, you'll be at college. It's all good.
so Danielle, take us through it.
With that lead in, thank you. It's about as exciting as it's going to get in talking about these dates. Let's see. There's no big curveballs here in terms of the way the calendar is outlined. We always start the week before Labor Day. First day back for students would be August 30th. Then, you know, taking us to the end of the year, last day of school with no snow days would be the 13th of June. And I mean, every fall around in the September, October, November months, there's we have some changes having to do with when the Jewish holidays fall and when Diwali falls. And this year, both Diwali and it's Rosh Hashanah fall on weekends. And I'm looking up there at the...
Yeah, it is Rosh Hashanah.
and
and
Rosh
Diwali.
Hashanah. So in September, it's a little less disrupted than usual. We do have a couple of holidays on Monday there and one early release. And then we have put the Professional Development Day on Tuesday, Election Day on November 7th, which is always a good thing to be able to do. And in the spring, we're looking at if the town usually has Election Day on the second Tuesday in March, so that'll be a PD day. And then the only, you may need to revisit the decision that you made last year around the 22nd of December is a Friday. And the day before our winter holiday. And traditionally, if it hasn't been on a Friday, we've had a full day for that day. We did put it in as a half day here to follow what we did this year. But I just want to remind you that you did vote on making it into a half day this past year because the 23rd was a Friday for that. The only other issue pertaining to the calendar I want to bring up and sort of flag, I know that you're going to have some discussion on it. Invariably, as much as we look through it and try to pick out all the errors, somebody will find something that we missed. So that might happen. And I know you're not going to vote on it tonight. You're going to look at it and potentially we'll find an error. Maybe this year will have been perfect. But there is one other issue I want to bring to your attention that I have not put this in here right now, but we are in active discussions about adding another set of of parent-teacher conferences at the elementary level. And I'll tell you the context here, it's important for you to know, is that the question was asked last year, it came up in discussion, that some people had brought to our attention. Other districts tend to have, at the elementary level, 2 conferences. We have 1 conference. Would we consider going to 2 conferences, especially since often parents do not open the standards-based report card and look at it? And sometimes, I mean, and so the conversation went like this. It's more powerful in any event to have the face-to-face with parents at 2 points during the year, in the fall when you're getting to know them, and then in the spring when you really do know them as a learner. And so it would be deeply valued both by the teachers and also by the parents if we were to do that. But before making putting this before you, at our next meeting, I think, I just want to give you context in terms of the research we've done. And we took all of our benchmarking communities, which are, there's 16 communities there, and we compared ourselves and said, how many of them are currently doing 2 conferences a year? We do 1 conference and 3 report cards. And so we asked the question, how many conferences, how many report cards? And it turns out we're an outlier. There's only, of the 16 districts that we compare ourselves to, there are only 3 that have the same model as us. So it's pretty compelling data that, the districts, value what we would have thought, which is like they just got to the idea, I guess, a little before us. Again, I haven't put this here for your consideration. I would need to figure out when those 2 early releases would be, but generally that's the way the parent conferences can be structured, is you do 2 half days in the fall and an evening, and we would propose doing the same thing in the spring. Probably in late March is when most districts do it. Okay, so pivot back then to this, hold that on the aside for the time being, and I'd be glad to answer any questions about either, the calendar that I presented before you or the parent-teacher conference issue, but yeah, so.
I was just gonna say, this isn't a question, but to anyone kind of watching the meeting, I think the calendar does a really good job of kind of including the breaks for our very diverse school community. But I'm not sure if this is for all of the schools, but I know at the high school, if you do have a cultural or religious holiday that's not listed on the calendar, you're still able to get an excused absence if you just work with administration and let them know. So if that's your case, I wanted to make sure that people know that that is an option. And I know it's at the high school, is it?
Yeah, it's a district-wide policy.
District-wide policy,
Yep.
so anyone
But
can take
thank you
advantage
for,
of that.
yeah.
Which brings up the question, as this comes up pretty much yearly, the discussion about the holidays. We had a subcommittee about 6 years ago. And every year that there are many holidays where there are days off, which is not next year, not the following year, should there be a revisit of the holiday subcommittee, or what we call the calendar subcommittee? And I bring it up because we're looking at the calendar, and I'm wondering about the committee's view on that, because, you know, even when we finished that committee ended and they gave the recommendation and we put it through as policy, there was some discrepancy even at the time from one of the cultures, and certainly this past year, parents have brought it to my attention, this, is it really all-inclusive, and does it really meet the needs of how families celebrate their holidays? And so since we are on calendar agenda, I think we brought it up last year at the exact same time, and I bring it up again because we never really created that subcommittee. It would be interesting to create the subcommittee at a time when you don't need it, which would be this next year, where the 23-24 calendar looks like there's less days off due to holidays. That's when people won't complain about it, but.
My comment would be, you know, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. If there's an issue that needs to be resolved, I would say, fine, we should do so. But, you know, until there's a driver to create a committee, we have enough committees already.
I know.
Particularly when it's union negotiation times. It's a lot of effort for everybody on the committee. But, you know, again, I think we rise to each occasion, and to the extent that there's an issue that needs to be worked on, I'm certainly in favor of it. But you know, if it isn't broken, let's leave it alone, particularly since there's plenty of time for people to comment. I don't think we need to do it today. And so as they see the calendar, we'll all hear. So let's wait and see. That would be my suggestion.
I would echo Steve's comments. And it would be a futile exercise for us to try and make everybody happy. That we can never make everybody happy. There's always going to be somebody who's not going to be happy. So, yeah.
I mean, I would agree as well. I think that the policy that we have in place for excusing those absences due to cultural or religious holidays kind of encompasses the diversity of our community. And, you know, it's not really an exemption that's like a ha-ha at the back of it. It's not like, oh, you're going to get stuck with like 5 tests the next day. You'll make up your work, but it's very much kind of like respected by all of the schools. So I think it makes sense. I haven't seen too much of a discrepancy, you know, like students having trouble with that respect. You know, everyone wants a day off, but nothing to do with like cultural or religious holidays specifically.
I would make the argument that since it's been at least 5 years, that the cultural changes of the town would impact the decision we made 5 years ago. And I bring that up because if the needs of the town have changed for holidays, then I guess that's the reason to have the subcommittee review the policy. And I'm just going to remind people the policy is, of course, written in the handbooks. It's basically a category 1, 2, and 3 that the subcommittee back then, after 2 years of examination and discussion of about 20 members from all different everything from teachers, students, parents, different cultures, clergy. They were all part of this 20-person subcommittee that spent 2 years examining it. They did surveys. The category 1 is one where the day is off. Category 2 is there's no homework either before the holiday or after it, depending how it's celebrated. And category 3 is there's an excuse absence, or, I mean, that other piece is if it's not one of category 1 or 2, then it can be in category 3.
Right, and the same homework
Yeah.
thing happens for category 1 as well.
Right, that's true. So it was an examination of how do families celebrate these holidays, therefore, what would be what would meet the needs of people when it comes to the school calendar. So that's what they were reviewing. So I make the argument that the town has changed over the last 5 years, and therefore the needs, I would think, have changed. And that's why we hear from parents in the years where the holidays affect more school days, because it feels unfair to not include certain holidays. So I still make that argument. I don't know how other members feel. Steve, Kristen?
I think I just have to think more about this, so I wasn't prepared to, to consider it. I understand the need. It may warrant another look at it. I just would want to think about how to go about it. You know, maybe it doesn't include a full subcommittee. Maybe it's another way for us to look at that policy.
Yep, Steve?
Yeah, I hear your point, and I think it's certainly worthwhile to ask whether or not there is a need. It's difficult to assess whether or not there is a need unless we're hearing that there's a need. I'm hesitant to form a subcommittee at this moment because I'm not convinced that there is that received need that we're aware of. And so, but I'm certainly open. I mean, I hear your point that, right, in 5 years, the town's has changed, and there might be a desire within the community to revisit this. And I'm certainly open to that. Yeah, it's difficult, absent of survey data or some sampling method to really know, and so that's why, I'm torn.
No. Steve, Durrett?
Yeah, one of the issues here, which we've experienced, is simply we're not free to do everything everybody wants. And the fact is that we're bound by certain things that cannot be changed. The number one thing is that the school year is 180 days. The next thing that we find is that nobody wants to be in school after June 15th, and that got stretched to the 23rd, I think, on this calendar, or some date that's after that. So the point being is, as we have more and more diversity in the town, and therefore, to be fair, we need to have more and more holidays to match. We just can't fit them in. And, other towns have dealt with it in a different way, which is there are no holidays. And in fact, you go to school on every day of the year that isn't a federal holiday. And so what happens if we stir the pot is we, the committee, then have to solve a problem that's insoluble. And that's the worst part of this thing, is because we can't, without changing all those other parameters. And the only way we have so far been able to meet the requirements that we've been asked to meet, which is the number of holidays that we have, is to start in August and end late in June, with all the other days that go in it. We also have an issue of how many minutes of education do we have in the year. So if we take, half days, which count, we don't meet the educational minutes of the year problem. So, like I said, stirring the pot without somebody already doing it for us, I'm certainly not in favor of, and would suggest that we wait and see what the calendar that we've offered turns out to be.
So let's leave it open. I wasn't really planning on creating a subcommittee tonight. I was just broaching the subject once again, stirring the pot. But I will say I want to leave it open for a school committee member to be able to add it to our agenda and be able to bring this up again, because I definitely have heard it from parents almost every year that there is what is considered either a non-inclusivity or an unfair balance, or imbalance, I should say, that exists. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to leave it open, okay? And then you guys could think about it more, and someone else can stir the pot at a later time. So I'm also going to bring up, I'm going to move on to a different piece of this, which is that I spoke with Deborah Ledoux, the assistant clerk in the clerk's office today. And I have the dates of the elections. It turns out, starting in 2020, the town began separating the national elections with the local elections. Therefore, and she happened to say that there was no election in November, but it's clear from my research that the November 7th 2023 is a national election. Whether that means we have an election town, I'm not sure. She mentioned a special town meeting right now is scheduled for Monday, October 16th, but that's not really important right now. There have been rumblings of that changing, but more importantly and pertinent to our calendar in 2024 is the presidential primary is actually Tuesday, March 5th, and the local election is Tuesday, March 12th, with the annual town meeting being March 23rd. I bring this up because the primary is going to be a lot larger on March 5th than March 12th. And I only called today because usually we call after the fact, and then we have to change it. So she informed me that that was important information. So
Yeah,
I'm going to suggest we move
I would agree.
professional development day to the.
That's why we drafted, so we can push on these things. I mean, I would say arguably then you'd have to flip the 12th to the 5th, and that then the 5th would be, it's not going to hit nearly the amount of impact, and we've run those elections while school's in session without issue. But on the national, you're going to have, you'd have to have the PD day then would flip to the 5th, probably.
And it's
Brian,
about-
can you just give me one sentence as why would they separate the two?
Okay, so I actually know that too. In fact, by the way, Deb said that she would come and talk to our committee, but I actually know the answer to that question. When they were together in the previous primary and national election, it was so convoluted because they had to separate the different ballots that it caused confusion between, remember, everyone's a volunteer who's working there, and evidently making sure you have the right ballot and the local ballot. People had like two different things. They have to be counted separately. It became very
I just know they're always upset when the schools are open, and so when we're trying to accommodate and have a closed school day, but whatever, we can only close it one day in March, and
right.
and the fifth,
I know. And she recognized that. She said it would still be better for them.
I know in the past we have held, and maybe it was because of COVID, but in the past the town has held elections in the town hall upstairs.
Well, it used to be in different schools. Didn't all happen.
I know, I
in
understand
high
that,
school.
but what I'm saying is they have held it in the town hall. So if it is an impact at the school, they've done it before at the town hall upstairs, so.
And their concern is usually if there's snow on the ground and some of the parking spaces are filled, it's hard to find parking when you go to vote. And the other piece is if kids are in session, then the parking lot is also full.
As it was this year.
As it was, right. So we sort of know what that looks like, and we'll have to just, you can either try to deter people from driving to school on that day, but the national election would be very, very challenging just because so many people are coming out to the polls.
So that's one adjustment we've picked up.
Yep, okay, and that's all I have.
And I, while you're planning for conferences, like half-days, and if you add them in the spring, I know that traditionally you've done 2 half-days so that they can be in the afternoon. I would like to see a move to more time offered in the evening, and I know that's difficult for teachers, but it is much better for working parents. It's hard to get off of work for a 10-minute conversation, so I would say make it more meaningful and a longer conference, or more evening time. So even if it is a half day and the teacher does have release time to make up for the evening that they spend here, I would like to see 2 evenings offered, because those times go quickly, and if you're a working parent, it's really hard, and then the teacher's making an additional time to see you anyway. So just something to consider.
Thanks.
Okay.
Is that something that's possible, or would that take some contractual renegotiations?
That's what the town does. We don't have to necessarily do what we do for the town relative to elections. I mean, our purpose is to run a school.
No, I think the question
Talking
is
about
about
conferences.
a parent conference
Parent
in
conference. I switched topics.
That's another thing, and yes,
yeah, mandating-
I agree
Yeah,
with
it's contractual.
an evening session
ways.
is much easier for parents who are commuting from wherever to get here. We know one guy that's got to get here
so-
at a meeting at 6 o'clock.
So wait, hold it, let's just get back on target here. So they're
a
just saying to
consideration.
contemplate that, look into it as a
Right,
possibility.
we're in the range of
Yeah.
preliminary
Yes.
discussion on this.
That's
So I
right.
would say
We
let's
can't really
focus
be
on the
talking about
calendar days we have as the area where we need to put our energy, and then everyone who is seeing the calendar, we'll pass it to principals tomorrow, have them start looking at it. I think this should be the year where we get all the errors, and there are none.
Yes,
Every year we've had
yes,
one.
we can do this.
So this is our year to try to get no errors, and so everyone should give it a good look. And then we will bring it back for a vote after it's had an opportunity. And then typically Andrea, my assistant, will share it out to parents so that they can email if they see anything they have questions about. So we always make sure it's posted and people have an opportunity to give us feedback. So you have policy work to move on to?
Yep,
I just don't
we're
want
gonna
to
move
get
on.
you bogged down.
So for background on this agenda item, the school committee's policies review. The MASC, Massachusetts Association of School Committees, has provided recommended revisions to a number of policies. The policy subcommittee, for which Steve Batchelor and I serve on, is in the process of reviewing the revisions. And the subcommittee's recommendations regarding 13 of the 21 policies were presented in your packet for your consideration. The remaining 8 policies will be available in preparation for future meetings. The subcommittee organized the document in the following order. First, they are numbered 1 through 13 to make it easy to discuss, and then you'll see the policy code followed by our current policy, and then it shows the MASC proposed policy, and then finally the committee's recommendation. Note, there are a few where Westborough does not have a current policy, and that is listed as well. So the way we're going to work this is I'm going to read the policy code into record. I'm asking that if there are any that you'd like to discuss and have questions about or want to share your additional opinions or weigh in on, we'll pull those out and then vote on those policies where there is no discussion as a block. We'll then discuss the policies where questions or opinions would like to be expressed and then subsequently vote on each one individually. Does that make sense? Are there any questions? Okay.
Are you intending to do all 14 pages today?
13 policies. We actually have 21 total, but 13 today. You'll see sort of, for the most part, our committee recommends adopting the MASC proposed policy. Or there may be some tweaks about procedure and definitely adopting a policy where we didn't have one. There were like 3 out of these 8. I think it's 3. Okay? Okay, so I'm looking for you to just say yay or nay, whether you would like to discuss these following. So number 1, code or policy DBC, budget deadlines.
Yes, I have a question about that one.
So do I.
Policy DBD, budget planning. Policy DBG, budget adoption procedures. Subpolicy DBJ, budget transfer authority. Policy DD, that's grants, proposals, and special projects. Policy DGA, authorized signatures. Policy DH, bonded employees and officers. Policy DI, fiscal accounting and reporting. Policy DIE, audits. Policy DJ, purchasing. Policy DJE, procurement requirements. Policy DK, payment procedures. And policy KCD, public gifts to schools. So am I correct that we only have a discussion or questions or thoughts on policy DBC, budget deadlines? Okay, so I think I'm going to make a motion myself. I'm going to make a motion to approve the policies as written in our document that have been recommended by the subcommittee. Policy DBD, budget planning. Policy DBG, budget adoption procedures. Policy DBJ, budget transfer authority. Policy DD, grants, proposals, and special projects. Policy DGA, authorized signatures. Policy DH, bonded employees and officers. Policy DI, fiscal accounting and reporting. Policy DIE, audits. Policy DJ, purchasing. Policy DJE, procurement requirements. Policy DK, payment procedures. And policy KCD, public gifts to schools. Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I've reviewed every one of these things, and I find them to be generically weak in regards to what we're forced to do or must do regarding Mass General laws as well as the charter of the town. The majority of these items, as a result, could very well be contrary to the details that are in those particular references. And so my vote will be no on every one of them. What I would suggest is and advise that, in fact, we take these under advisement relative to our actions as the school committee, because we are already driven to do every single one of these things by other documents. The town charter, the process of what the budget process is as established by the town manager in this town, Mass General law, bid laws, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the details for all of those things, having been involved with them over almost 20 years, are much deeper than what this document implies. So I see nothing wrong with it in terms of being advisory, but I certainly don't see them as what we will do in regards to things that may be contrary to general law. So that's my position on these.
Okay, other thoughts?
Well, as you know, MASC has suggested all these policies, and they do reference the Mass General law or laws that pertain to the policy. So I think my understanding is that it is related to the law, and it's just a policy to have.
But policy should be to match general laws in the charter and the directions of the rest of the town government, rather than create something that's perhaps parallel, but not necessarily exhaustive. And I mean, I know the bid policy changes from time to time, and the number that's given in here is the fixed value that currently is there in regards to bidding. When Mass General law changes it, then that's what we have to do. Anyway, that's my position. I think these are unnecessary based on my experience on the school committee for dealing with each one of these. I certainly would accept them as advice and go look at the references that are given, because the references are the drivers to what you do. So,
Steve Batchelor?
Yeah, I have a question on that. So there is a way that we could just accept them under advisement and not have them be our policy?
We recognize the policies perhaps is a way to do it, but not bind ourselves to them. You know, the inference of having a policy is that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And what I'm saying is I don't know how you get from my position, which is to see them as advice, as process, rather than accept them as policies. There are a number of policies that we haven't accepted that have been offered by MASC. And obviously there are some changes that are offered in this in regards to what MASC is asking. Anyway, that's my position. Obviously, if the committee does what it might do and vote these as policies of the school committee, then so be it. But I'm suggesting that it's dangerous to accept a policy that may be different than what you have to do under law. I don't think they should have messed with it, to tell you the truth.
So, I mean, one of our pillars of duty is to create policy. That's like one of our core jobs as school committee members. And these policies are all based upon mass general law.
But they are not general law.
They
are
all
policies
been-
that tell you should look at general law.
No,
that's
they've
different.
all been credited towards mass general law and citations, and they've all been reviewed by council, the MASC council, MASC council. And I think it sets precedence to make sure that, I mean, if someone's looking at our policies and doesn't see something for how, budget planning actually occurs, then there's a wonder of whether there's a policy for how we've been doing things. If anything, it now creates, we have been doing, in fact, what's interesting about the ones that they did propose and we didn't have a policy is we've been doing those things. And so it just gives someone a reference to something we already do. So I'm someone who thinks these have been reviewed very thoroughly by legal counsel and correlate to mass general law and citations. And I'm someone who supports, these, we're talking about right now, 12 of them.
I have a question. Is there anything in the policy, I went through it, is there anything in the policy that literally violates any mass general laws or contradicts mass general law? What is there?
Well, here's how the references work in here. It says, okay, go look at it.
I think also that means that the policy is drawn from the language in the Mass General Law.
Your document has links to the mass general law that they're referring to?
I don't believe it. I read Mass General Law frequently when we're up, when we're talking about things. And I know when you get to the budget policy the school committee has followed for as long as I've been in town government, and that's almost 50 years, is set by the town charter, not by anything that comes from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees.
Can we have a motion to move this to next meeting till we sort this out?
So the question is, what do we need to sort out exactly?
We should be careful, at least from my point, I should be careful to make sure that there's nothing in the policy that contradicts the Mass General Law. We don't want to get into a situation where we have a policy that is in contrast to what the Mass General Law allows us to do or not to do. So that's a.
So you want to do your research on each one?
True.
To look it up? Okay.
True.
And
I'm not sure if I'm misreading, but doesn't the policies all have references to Mass General Law, like under the legal references
Yes, they do.
section?
True,
I would
it
assume that
does
MASC
refer-
also has done the review, just
Yeah.
like off of their precedent as an organization. But I could be.
True, it chooses to refer to Mass General Law, but the language of the policy itself could be, if you look at Mass General Law and compare, the language could be contradictory. That's what Steve, I think, is referring to, that I know some of these laws that the policy contradicts to these laws, so we never want to be in that situation.
Well, here's the way it should have been done, in my opinion, is that the budget deadlines, for example, would be set either by the charter or by Mass General Law, and then we're done. We don't need to have text that comes from the MASC. So, like I said, that's my position. If you wish to go ahead and vote it tonight, you could have a majority, and then I don't have to worry about it.
Is there a motion on the?
Yeah, there
Yep,
was
the motion. It was second, you seconded it already. There is a motion, we have to vote, because we already have a motion and a second. And so certainly people can vote no because you want to wait a week, 2 weeks, or you can vote yes and it's a settled deal.
So the motion is to,
Approve.
approve them as they're written.
The 12
I thought there was a
policies.
motion from Raghu.
No,
to-
No.
the motion still exists to approve.
Oh, okay.
Disapprove.
To approve the 12 policies that I listed.
Okay.
So, Kristen, do you have a thought, or? No? I mean, one of the things I'll say is, that's the reason you had a subcommittee. The reason we had a subcommittee, a policy, review subcommittee, was to review the proposed policies, which MASC came up with all the other ones that we've done in the past, which is interesting. We did 2 in September. We do them every year, where we review policies and either tweak them within our, and by the way, they're on our website. Every school committee has a list of all these policies. So the ones we didn't have, which there were 3 of these 13, was simply something we had already been doing. And it simply states it to create, an understanding. If someone were to look up to see what is our policy about budget planning, they'll see it.
Yeah, my only thought is it's prudent to be cautious. If there's something that's there. Even if we ask the town council to say, okay, the language is good enough that holds the kosher to Mass General laws.
Well, we wouldn't, school committee has their own council. We wouldn't talk to town council.
Yeah,
It's the school
school
committee
committee,
matter. These MASC proposed policies are written by lawyers. Like, they have their own set of policy advisors, and many of them are they're lawyers or legal experts that work in this field, and we have a subcommittee that's already reviewed them.
I'll just point out that, for example, in the second one, we have a proposed policy from MASC, and we have a recommendation to eliminate one sentence of it.
Yeah.
Okay? That means that this committee can do any damn thing it wants relative to these policies. Since in the past we have made amendments to MASC policies to fit the needs of the school committee. I'm suggesting that we already have policies in terms of what we do and where the source of that responsibility is. For example, for budget processes, has been defined by the town, by its charter, and by the requirements of the town manager and the Board of Selectmen. That's the policy that we follow. Anything that's contrary to that we might adopt, is not what's going to be accepted. So why then would we go ahead and do what is suggested here when we already have directions that come from the process that the town has already adopted? That's one example, and there's many others in here as well.
What about our dozens of policies that are just school committee policies that we?
Just school committee policies, because they deal with the school committee's process, and those are not defined by anybody else. The majority of them that we voted on every year have to do with what we do. And to the extent that we may not have any idea of what we do, then we adopt a policy that tells us
Governed by law,
as to how we do it.
But aren't they governed by law? We wouldn't just do anything. We can't just do anything. We have laws, so all of our policies reference a law or whatever.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Not school committee policies in general. They do what is a practice. Anyway, I don't need to discuss it anymore. I
Okay.
have my opinion, so you
Okay.
can move ahead.
Is there any more discussion?
Well, I do, as someone who was on the subcommittee, I read these in a particular way, and I read them with an awareness that they'd been reviewed by council or by MASC. What I didn't read them with attention toward is so I thought they've been read by their council, but there could be bureaucratic overreach in here that is in contravention to town policy. So I read it basically with, the benefit of the doubt on their side, and not referencing the town charter or any of our local laws. And so I haven't cross-referenced that, but I also read it, if we have no policy in place, I think you want to err on the side of having policy, even if it's really milquetoast kind of language, which this is. I mean, it's so generic that it's not problematic. But if we don't cross-reference it in the way that Mr. Durrett can because of his years of experience, I mean, I'm leaning toward not voting in favor of the very thing that I was sort of charged with reviewing because of the institutional memory that I'm hearing, even though, you know.
The one thing I'll say is that the MASC specifically wrote these based upon town charter versus city or regional. They were very clear about it, that if you were a city, you should look into your own city laws.
Well, that's because the driver from state law for a school committee in the city is totally different than
Right.
what
Right.
a town charter
is.
But let me point out that the town charter is approved by the legislature. Okay, who approved these except counsel for MASC? Where's his authorization come from? Comes from the president of the MASC. That, you know, so.
Well, that's where all our policies have come from originally.
So, you have a combination. I mean, I
Yeah.
think the conversation is really thoughtful, and you'll take your vote and figure out what you want to
we'll
do.
vote.
I think that you have historically, the school committee streamlined. Your policy is a policy we adopted, some that are unique to Westborough and created by us. Some are grounded in MASC policy that create a backbone if you need support. And I think historically what Steve has pointed out is just that we didn't adopt a bunch of MASC policy around budgeting practices because the town charter guides the timelines and our practices in compliance with those deadlines. Your policy statements around make a budget and make sure it meets the school committee's goals, these are very generic. If you want to select them, we've just never leaned to adopt them because I think we didn't feel we required their guidance. They're very general. And the town charter has anchored you. So everybody's correct. Everything you're saying is correct on both kind of reaches of the discussion. It's a philosophical, whether or not you want your budget book, your policy book to be full of a lot of extra policies if you need them or not. And so, you know, you need to vote accordingly. Your town charter is the anchor of the town guideline for what we have to comply with. So, I mean, I think, you know, the policies as I see them are generic enough that they don't appear to overlap. But the question is then, are they necessary? And that's what you need to vote on.
That's my real point.
So are there any more discussion for tonight before we take this vote?
I was just going to ask that if you are going to delay the vote, like who's going to review the policy to see if it's in compliance with the standards you're looking for?
You know, I already looked at them, so I know they're compliant, so I'm probably not going to do that.
A subcommittee did. So they have a subcommittee that was meeting, and I think the subcommittee was a portion of, was Steve and Lisa, working with Andrea Macknick, my assistant, who pulls them together and studies them and is helpful. So the subcommittee did kind of the deeper reading, making proposals back to the larger committee, and now they're discussing it.
Right, so in this like delay to the next meeting, the subcommittee wouldn't be reviewing them again. It would just be like school committee members just making sure.
Keep in mind that the vote, if it's yes, it's done.
Yeah,
And
if it's yes,
no,
if it's
done.
no. Right, right.
We're voting.
Although it can be reintroduced, it can be
Oh,
put
yeah.
on the
Oh,
agenda.
always can bring it up again.
Absolutely. So we have a motion, we have a second to approve the 12 listed policies. All in favor? And all opposed? And abstention? We have a 1 to 3 vote opposed and 1 abstention, with 5 being present. So at this time, the 12 have been opposed. Of course, they could be revisited. And of course, it's going to be on the next agenda because we have 8 more policies to review. Now we're going to go to the number 1, which was policy DBC, budget deadlines. There were some questions and comments and discussion about that.
The question I had was the MASC proposed policy in the third paragraph, I believe, talks about requirement holding a public hearing that has been published in a local newspaper. And then that language was taken out in the recommendation from the subcommittee, and I'm wondering why that was taken out.
Because we don't necessarily have a newspaper. And
Yes,
so
we do. Yeah, we do.
We do.
It's law that you have to,
We always post the.
public hearing is required notice.
Okay.
Have an ad in the newspaper?
Yeah, we post it publicly.
Have to post it, it says,
By law.
it's law.
Oh.
Public
okay.
hearing is required, notice shall be given by
Andrea
publication in
posted to the
newspaper,
paper.
general circulation in the city or town once in each of 2 successive weeks. That's why the planning board always says that their
And Andrea
this hearing
posts,
has been
Yes.
publicly.
Well, I knew we have we have the public hearing.
and it's posted to the newspaper. That's something Andrea
Okay,
takes
so
care of.
I was
Andrea.
just changing it. We were just
Requirement of
changing it
a
to
public hearing is that it's a law that you post about it in the
Yeah.
newspaper.
the
Yes,
newspaper.
yes.
That's why I
Okay.
say this is
So,
dangerous.
is it your recommendation to change it back to the original proposed policy?
Yes, because if we don't, I feel like we're not in compliance
Being
with the
in
Mass
compliance,
General Law.
yeah.
Okay. And any thoughts about that, Steve? Since you were on the subcommittee? Yeah. Okay. Does that sound okay to? Okay.
Yeah, it's a correction. It's good.
Okay, good call. I'm going to
Thought
make
we
a,
voted on all of them.
we did,
Yes
we
or
voted,
no?
we voted on 12 of them. I'm going to make a motion to approve policy DBC, budget deadlines. Do I have a second? So there'll be no vote, and I probably will be revisiting these next time. So you should probably do your research if you wanted to, based on what Raghu had said. And Steve? Okay, so we'll move right on to the final agenda. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. Our next agenda item is to potentially receive a $100 anonymous donation to the Borough Sugar Shack, which is being presented for our acceptance. Amber, did you want to say anything more about that?
No, just that it speaks to the ongoing, really, enjoyment people find, and that more and more people are finding the program and make contributions because they think it's a worthy cause and they want to support us. So I would just ask you to approve receiving the gift.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the anonymous donation to the Sugar Shack? $100 donation.
I move that we approve the gift of $100 to the borough, and with great thanks for recognizing the program and its benefits.
Okay, second. And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We have a 5-0 vote, 5 being present, and we'll move on to the last agenda item of our regular session, which is to vote on capital plan. This is a vote to eventually award the bid for the buildings and grounds assessment. It's a I'm just going to give a reminder that this long-range capital improvement plan, we discussed at our last meeting on January 4th. We reviewed quotes and bids to authorize one company to inspect 5 of our 6 school buildings, excluding Fales, because it is new, for the purpose of assessing the existing conditions for the facilities and grounds, and for developing a long-range capital improvement plan. This bid was before us on January 4th. We requested a follow-up for calling references of the recommended low bidder, which was Russo Bar Associates, Inc., before voting on this recommendation. I remind the public that there were 6 contenders and 3 submitted bids. Any information we have received? Steve?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve this, and I'll speak to the comments that I made last week, or last meeting, in regards to references. David worked through with Bob Ferguson to get some references. 3 were asked, 1 responded with approval, if you will, of the work of this particular engineering company, but what was interesting is that with that follow-up, we found out that the company whose name we would award this to is a subsidiary of a bigger company. The recommendation, of course, was given to the smaller company, but they've now been bought out by a bigger company. And as a result of that, Bob and David did a Dun & Bradstreet review of both companies, the old one and the new one, and they're certainly satisfactory in regards to this work. So again, I made the motion. I hope that we'll vote in favor of that and move the project along.
Do we have did you just make a motion?
I did.
Yeah, I thought so. Second? Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We have a 5-0 vote, 5 being present. Thank you. And the next regular session meeting of the school committee is scheduled for Wednesday, February 1st at 6 p.m. in this hall. And do we have a motion to move into executive session?
Sure, I can do it. I make a motion that we vote to meet in executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining, the para-educators unit, because open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiations and bargaining positions of the school committee, and under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to review and approve executive session minutes from January 4th, 2023.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a roll call vote.
Bachelor, yes.
Vincent, yes.
Edinburgh, yes.
London, yes.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so we're moving into executive session. So anyone here, we invite you now to exit the room unless you have